When you hear the phrase, most Christian country in the world, what pops into your head? The Vatican? The United States? Maybe a small European nation where church bells still ring every Sunday? But what if I told you the real story isn't about Europe at all? What if some of the biggest Christian populations today are found not in the West, but in places you might never expect? And what if the future of Christianity doesn't look like anything we've seen before? In 2025, the global map of Christianity is shifting, quietly but powerfully, and the countries leading the way might surprise you. First, let's get something straight. When we talk about the most Christian countries, are we talking about the percentage of Christians in the population or the total number of Christians overall? Because that distinction changes everything. A small country where nearly everyone is Christian might seem more Christian at first glance, but it can't compete with the sheer volume of believers in a massive nation where only a fraction of people identify as Christian. Yet that still adds up to tens of millions more. For this deep dive, we're focusing on raw numbers, which means population size plays a huge role. Using data from respected sources like Pew Research Center, the World Christian Database, and national census reports, we've compiled the list of countries expected to have the highest number of Christians by 2025. At the top of the list is the United States, home to an estimated 243 million Christians. Despite rising secularism and a growing number of Americans identifying as religiously unaffiliated, the US remains the largest Christian majority country in the world by sheer count. But here's the twist. While the US still leads in numbers, its grip on the top spot may not last forever, because just behind it, another nation is closing in fast. That nation is Brazil, sitting comfortably in second place with around 207 million Christians. Brazil was once proudly the world's largest Catholic country, but over the past few decades, the spiritual landscape has been transforming. Pentecostal and evangelical movements have exploded across the nation, reshaping how faith is practiced and experienced. Today, less than half of Brazilians identify as Catholic, down from nearly 90% just 2 decades ago. This shift isn't just about worship styles. It's influencing politics, media, and even entertainment in ways that are hard to ignore. In third place is Mexico, with approximately 138 million Christians. Mexican Christianity is deeply rooted in colonial history and cultural identity. From the revered image of the Virgin of Guadalupe to the grandeur of historic cathedrals, faith is everywhere. Yet, even in this traditionally Catholic stronghold, change is in the air. Evangelical movements are gaining traction, especially among younger generations and urban populations. And with one of the largest diasporas in the world, Mexican Christianity doesn't stop at its borders. It spreads far beyond, shaping communities from Texas to Tokyo. Now, if you're scanning the list and see Russia in fourth place with around 104 million Christians, you might raise an eyebrow. After all, Russia is officially a secular state, and church attendance is relatively low compared to other countries on this list. But here's the key. Russia has a massive population, and roughly 70% of Russians identify as Orthodox Christians, even if they don't attend services regularly. That puts the number of nominal Christians well over 100 million. So while practice may not always match identity, the sheer scale of self-identification places Russia firmly in the top 5. It also raises a provocative question. Can a country with declining religious practice still claim to be one of the most Christian nations in the world? Rounding out the top 5 is the Philippines, with about 95 million Christians, making it the only predominantly Christian country in Asia. This island nation owes much of its religious makeup to centuries of Spanish colonization, which left a lasting imprint on culture, language, and daily life. Filipino Christianity is vibrant, communal, and often deeply emotional. Masses are packed, festivals are extravagant, and faith is rarely kept private. Yet, even here, debates are brewing, especially around the church's influence in politics and social issues like reproductive rights. Coming in at number 6 is Nigeria, home to over 93 million Christians and counting. Nigeria isn't just growing in numbers, it's becoming a spiritual powerhouse. From Lagos megachurches broadcasting globally to vibrant house fellowships in rural villages, Christianity in Nigeria is passionate, diverse, and deeply woven into everyday life. And here's the kicker. Nigeria could soon surpass Russia and even the Philippines as its population continues to boom. By 2050, Nigeria is projected to be the third most populous country in the world, and that means more Christians than ever before. Right behind Nigeria is Ethiopia. With around 72 million Christians, Ethiopia stands out not just for its ancient Christian roots, dating back to the 4th century, but also for being one of the few African nations never fully colonized by European powers. Its dominant form of Christianity is Oriental Orthodox, making it distinct from Western traditions. Yet, despite its rich heritage, Ethiopia faces modern challenges like poverty, political instability, and religious tensions. Still, faith remains a cornerstone of national identity, and that shows no sign of fading. In 8th place, we find Democratic Republic of Congo, with about 68 million Christians. The DRC is often overlooked in global conversations, but when it comes to religion, it's quietly influential. Catholicism took deep root during the colonial era, but today, independent African churches are flourishing. In fact, some of the fastest-growing Christian movements in the world are based right here, blending traditional African spirituality with biblical teachings in ways that outsiders often don't understand. Next up is China, estimated to have around 67 million Christians, though the real number may be much higher. Officially atheist, China presents a complex picture. There are state-sanctioned churches, underground house churches, and a growing network of urban Christian communities navigating government restrictions. Some scholars believe that if current trends continue, China could become home to the largest Protestant population in the world within the next 2 decades. That would be nothing short of revolutionary, especially if it happens under a regime that tightly controls religious expression. So, should China already be considered a top Christian nation? Or do we wait until the data becomes clearer? And finally, rounding out the top 10 is Uganda, with approximately 41 million Christians. Uganda has one of the youngest populations in the world, and that youth bulge is fueling a spiritual awakening. Church attendance is high, Pentecostal movements are booming, and Christian values influence everything from education to politics. But Uganda also sits at a crossroads. While faith brings hope and community, it's also shaping deep cultural and political debates about the country's future. So when we ask, which countries have the most Christians in 2025? We're not just listing statistics, we're witnessing a transformation, a movement, a redefinition of what Christianity looks like in the 21st century. And if the trends keep going, the next time we revisit this question, in 20, 30, or 2040, the list might look even more different than it does today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe.